Hi guys, so this is my vegan journey.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad. Where's the meat?
I wanted to just sort of share with you guys my own sort of journey towards this certain sort of lifestyle choice that I do now. Really just give you an idea of the sort of thought patterns that people go through to end up in the world of veganism, for those that sort of don't understand it so much. And for those that are also there or thinking of going on that journey, just some solidarity and some thoughts that you might share that you shouldn't feel ashamed of.
When will all those fools learn that you can be perfectly healthy simply eating vegetables, fruits, grains, and cheese?
Oh, cheese!
You don't eat cheese, Apu?
No, I don't eat any food that comes from an animal.
Oh, then you must think I'm a monster.
Yes, indeed, I do think that.
For me, it all started when I was a child. I went to stay with an auntie who was vegetarian, and she essentially just told me that the ham that I was eating, which I knew was a tasty food, was actually a dead pig, and I quite liked pigs and sort of joined the dots as a child, and I was like, actually not really sure I want to eat pigs. So I sort of came home from staying with this auntie to my mum and said, oh, I'm a vegetarian now, and she was like, oh no you're not. Being a stubborn Capricorn that I am, I sort of stuck to my guns, and eventually we worked out ways of doing things, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best way to go, really, knowing my mum at this stage was a single mum of 4 children. So yeah, I was vegetarian, really sort of cemented myself in my diet at that point. I just stopped thinking of meat as food. Even my first job when I was 16, I remember working at Burger King. I didn't have any problem at all making the meat burgers or doing anything like that, just as long as I didn't have to eat it. That was sort of my stance. And they had veggie burgers for my lunch, so it was all good there. So then I went to university after that.
Your bra bomb better work, nerdlinger.
And like a lot of people at university, especially in a sort of weird rural arts college that I ended up in, do a bit of experimenting. And for me, I ended up experimenting with eating meat.
I thought you loved me.
And I really wanted to sort of, challenge who I was, being sort of 18, just moved away from home and that sort of stuff.
Never stop questioning the nature of reality.
I know you're questioning the nature of reality, but are you really questioning it?
Now you're getting it.
I am getting it. But am I really getting it?
That's enough now.
It is enough. But is it really enough?
Then, a couple of years later, I just sort of generally gravitated back towards vegetarianism. I think once I'd finished studying and I was living on my own.
I'm a real boy.
And it helped that I got a part-time job at the time, which was cleaning dishes for a vegetarian cafe in Soho, London, which sadly no longer exists. But yeah, that really sort of helped me turn back to my veggie ways.
We are the vegetables, we hope you like our song.
But more as sort of a dietary choice rather than a political stance, really. I mean, I was pretty apathetic at the time and just sort of only at the start of my political journey and really sort of travelling the way that I did to become a leftist, socialist, commie, whatever you want to call me.
Not a communist. He may be a liar, a pig, an idiot, a communist, but he is not a porn star.
So yeah, and then after that, I started moving away from milk and dairy. I mean, I never really liked the idea of drinking the substance that was made especially for a baby animal that wasn't the animal that I was. I always found that a bit weird. Not on a political level, again, just on a personal grossed out level. I mean, we've all got stuff that grosses us out. I mean, for some people it's broccoli, for me it was milk. So I moved away from milk, and then which made me slowly sort of detach myself from cheese and other dairy products. Again, just as more of a kind of, this sort of freaks me out. I'm not sure I should be eating this. I was a dairy-free vegetarian for a bit, which was interesting as a diet choice. And then I watched that mockumentary called Carnage by the hilarious Simon Amstell, which I thought was entertaining. It was funny. It was clever. Had some really good archive footage.
The Vegan Society was formed in 1944 by a group of vegetarians who realised that there was more cruelty involved in milk production than in meat production.
We find that our vegan diet keeps us perfectly healthy. We can pursue all our outdoor activities that we used to with just as much interest.
And how weird it seemed in the world at that time. But what I learned from that really was about the production of eggs, which really surprised me because I was still eating eggs at the time. And I found out from that and from various other sources that even in the free-range egg farms, and I always ate free-range eggs because I'm a bit of a hippie, I guess, and they weren't really that much more expensive than the caged hens, so it seemed to make sense. Anyway, so I found out even on the free-range farms, they would still murder the baby chicks, which I thought was rotten and wasteful and just not a very good practice. So rather than not eating eggs because I felt like they weren't for me, I stopped eating eggs really as a sort of boycott. It was a sort of beginning of my boycott dietary preferences, because I just didn't think I wanted to give my money. I didn't want to support those practices. I didn't want to support those kinds of farms. So at this point I was dairy-free, egg-free, vegetarian. And after learning about honey, I dropped that from my diet as well. And then rather than explaining to people who asked, I don't bring it up unless it is asked, I thought I'd just adopt the phrase vegan. And from that, it only made sense to me really to sort of start boycotting animal products as far as clothing goes, and various other products that you can get on the market, because, I sort of joined all the dots in my head and it all sort of came together. And I thought, some cases it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, and it definitely isn't a be-all and end-all of change in the world. But, it does help. There was a significantly large amount of people in my country, Britain, in the last couple of years that have either cut down meat, switched to vegetarianism, or gone full vegan.
That's why I'm a vegetarian.
Well, that's a start.
I was thinking of going vegan.
I'm a level 5 vegan. I won't eat anything that casts a shadow.
And that's had a real impact on those industries and really changed the practices by lowering the demand. And a lot of these kinds of practices are really bad for the environment. I mean, especially dairy farms. Goldsmiths University, I know, recently just banned beef because those farming practices, again, are bad for the environment, not very sustainable. So it is a protest boycott movement. I mean, I still believe we need revolution to change the world. We need the working class to rise up, seize the means of production. And I think, this is a journey towards that for some people. I started off as a vegetarian before I became a socialist. And for me, the two seem to be a natural crossover. I think it might be important for socialists to create relationships with vegan activists because we've got a lot in common, and especially when it comes to the climate crisis and environmental impact of those practices. It's not just ending animal cruelty, it's about defeating capitalism, because capitalism is what created the high demand for meat, which was manufactured, did create these, sprawling farms and these really unpleasant practices. So the two are interlinked. So I think the takeaway from this video for me, tying it back to some of the other content on my channel.
9, 8, meltdown averted.
If you're a vegan, look into anti-capitalism, because I think by being a vegan, you're probably by default anti-capitalist. I'm happy to debate that. Please put some comments down below. But also, if you're a socialist, consider joining the boycott against practices which, you might not have moral thoughts around, but at least about the environmental impact of consuming and, continuing the demand for such products. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it for now. This has been a bit of a rant. I've done this unscripted this time. I just thought I'd give you a stream of consciousness from my own experience through the world of vegetarianism, veganism, and a plant-based lifestyle. I'll catch you guys next time.
You don't win friends with salad. Mom! I didn't mean to take sides. I just got caught up in the rhythm.